Thor passed through. An ordinary college student who is about to graduate has not been severely beaten by the society, has not experienced the lightning strikes necessary for time travel, and has not experienced the standard betrayal before time travel. At the premiere ceremony of Avengers Alliance 4, the moment Iron Man snapped his fingers on the big screen, he lost consciousness. When he woke up again, he had arrived in Asgard and was attending a banquet. Hey, where did the guy in the back row go? Who knows, maybe he left early. Probably the funny ones sent by Thanos, they turned gray together. Ha ha. Originally, this was something to be happy about, becoming my favorite superhero, the son of Odin, the next king of Asgard, the fiancé of my childhood sweetheart, the good younger brother of my brothers and sisters, my parents who love me. But Thor, who is familiar with the plot, knows how miserable his future will be. The mother died, the father died, the three major boys died, the careless younger brother finally became sensible and died again, and the older sister almost killed herself. The girlfriend is gone, the hammer is gone, the eyes are gone, the hair is gone, the figure is gone, Asgard is gone, and after finally becoming the strongest Avenger, he was immediately cut off by a humanoid female Tyrannosaurus. When his father was in power, Asgard was a paradise envied by the whole universe. As a result, the foundation had shrunk by 90% as soon as it came into his hands, and God's domain became a village. The people of Asgard really picked up ghosts, no wonder Heimdall would rather teleport Hulk than teleport himself. Thinking of this, Thor couldn't help but burst into tears. His selection of time-traveling objects was too precise. It would be better to become Iron Man. I searched all over the impurity models, and when I was tired of playing, I found a model who was married to an honest man. If I'm such a mess in Asgard, Odin can take my own skin. Fortunately, it's still relatively early at this point in time. Odin and Ancient One are both here, and although Thanos is confident, he won't come to fight too. According to the chronology on the Earth, it is now 1995, and the plot is at the moment when Captain Marvel is about to start. If you regard each superhero as a game character, you are a newcomer who is thousands of years old, but Carol Danforth will be able to reach the full level of one click in a short time, so this time you have to get to know what you say, and you need a contact information, make a good relationship in advance and hug your thigh. Bah, superhero, can you call it hugging your thigh? Hey, congratulations to the host for successfully traversing. The superhero system has been bound. When the host comes into contact with an important hero or villain target or may affect it, there is a chance to trigger the task related to the target, and rewards can be obtained for completing the character. Each target triggers the task at most once, and abandoning the task also consumes the number of times. The reminder sound that came to mind suddenly made Thor tremble instantly. What the hell? System. Thor, will rise. Immediately stood up excitedly, then remembered that this was in public, and quickly sat back down. Loki next to him looked at his brother's strange behavior. He had a frowning face just now, but suddenly he turned into a mean smile, but he knew that his brother was a joke, so he still rolled his eyes. Thor calmed down and looked at the system panel in front of him. Hey, congratulations for triggering Thor-related tasks. Elegy of the Strongest. As the worst superhero and one of the strongest Avengers, every time Thor becomes stronger is accompanied by huge amounts of pain. Please choose one of the tasks complete, you will be rewarded for completing the task. Task 1. Increase the weight to 400 caddies. Task reward. The strength of Thor in the Fat House. As the strongest Thor appointed by the Emperor, although some aspects are not satisfactory, at least in terms of strength, he already has the strength to fight Thanos' qualifications. Task 2. Challenge Thanos and kill Loki. Task reward. Stormbreaker. The strongest artifact in the Marvel Universe, invincible, able to suppress the power of infinite gems, enough to kill Thanos. Mission 3. Destroy Mjolnir and sacrifice an eye. Mission reward. Awakening ability, Thunder Control. Completely control the power of thunder in the body, no longer rely on Mjolnir. The hammer is to let you control your power, makes you more focused, it is not the source of your power. After losing Mjolnir, you will awakening the power that really belongs to you. Thor looked at the task list, the corners of his mouth twitching. Mjolnir must not be lost. If it is destroyed, Odin will definitely smash his own skull, let alone lose his eyes. Although Stormbreaker is very tempting, it turns out that with a weapon alone, it is okay to fight a sneak attack. If you really face Thanos head-on, it is purely a gift of equipment. Besides, although Loki was picked up, after all these years, he is still considered his own family. Then only option 1 is left. The system is really full of malice towards itself. Fortunately, compared to the other two options, it is irreversible. After all, if you eat fat, you can still lose weight. At worst, you will be a vegetarian for a few more years in the future. Thor has a firm face. I choose task 1. Increase the weight to 400 caddies. Beside him, Loki watched his face change, as if Thor had turned into an emoji, and was about to complain when a soldier came in to report. Your Majesty, Lord Heimdall discovered that an unknown person has broken into Midgard, which seems to be related to the Kree and Skrull, and ordered me to come and report. Oh? Odin didn't care. Neither the Kree nor the Skrull can turn the tide. As for the war between them, it has nothing to do with Asgard. As the king of God, Odin knows many things that others don't. The earth that nominally belongs to Asgard is not as ordinary as it seems. As long as Kamar Taj exists, even if Ronan the Accuser comes, it will not be a threat. The plot begins. In fact, in this plot, there are not many benefits that can be won. Tesseract will be brought to Asgard in the future, and the advanced technology of the Kree is actually only relative to the Earth. Although Asgard looks like a medieval style, its technological level is actually the best in the entire universe. But Thor is still planning to go there. First, the Earth will be the place where many big events will take place in the future. Second, it is easier to build a good relationship with Captain Marvel, who has not yet awakened. It is difficult. It's best to be the same as the black marinated egg. You need a communication device, and you can stand in the front row as a meat shield when you are in Ragnarok. Besides, he has another plan. Father, let me go to Midgard. As a member of the Nine Realms, if other forces break in, at least we should express something. Thor looked serious. Earth, a mountain road in the western United States. A woman in a leather jacket looks downcastly at a broken-down motorcycle. Hi beautiful lady, need help? A luxurious sports car stopped beside her, and a young man inside the car whistled and accosted her. At the same time, he looked at the woman. I have to say that the appearance of Captain Marvel is actually not bad. The reason why he is called Auntie is actually 80% of the pot is the uniform and style. Just like the rebellious girl now, I don't know how much better than the black and green uniforms for straight men before. The young man is naturally Thor, who came to the Earth. He has been following Carol Danfoss since the beginning of the subway station, and he also made the motorcycle. Carol Danforth pondered for a while, and got into the car anyway. The car is not bad. At a speed of more than 200 yards, Carol, whose hair was blown by the wind, felt a little better. The depression caused by various inconveniences on this backward planet in the past 2 days dissipated a lot. That's. Thor was talking. Suddenly he felt a warning sign, and quickly jumped out of the car. At the same time, a fiery energy cannon blasted the door beside him. Who the hell are you? Carol looked vigilant, and at the same time his hands lit up. The skill shown by Thor is by no means an earthling, at least not something a playboy can achieve. Thor called. Mjolnir came to the hand. He asked curiously, how did you find out? Is there something wrong with my performance? Your stalking is too obvious. I have discovered you a long time ago. And your strike-up level is too low and outdated. Carol said, and several consecutive energy cannons were fired, and Thor waved meow hammer blocks. Boom, boom, boom. The two had fought for several rounds in a matter of breaths. Thor's lightning was scattered by Carol's energy cannon, and all of Carol's attacks were blocked. Hey, I'm not your enemy, Thor shouted while resisting the offensive. Carol turned a deaf ear. I called. Look, this is the power of thunder. You should know that Skrulls don't have the ability to discharge electricity. Whether you are right or not, if you have nothing to do, you can either rape or steal. I will fight. Stop. I have something to say. Wait until you get down on the ground before talking. I will call. F*K. Thor is drunk. This woman is too reckless. At first the two of them fought back and forth, but now they have been fighting each other for half an hour. Hey, don't you want to know about Dr. Lawson? And your lost memory? Thor finally had an idea. Carol then stopped and asked, do you know about Dr. Lawson? Do you know about my past? Thor breathed a sigh of relief. His hands were already numb. I only have a general understanding, and you may not believe it if I tell you. If you want to know the cause and effect, then come with me, and we will find someone first. Where are you going? Poncho Bar. Let me introduce myself. I am the son of Odin from Asgard, the god of thunder, and the future king. I should exist in your myths and legends. Thor. The Norse mythology of this world is an Asgard who was on the earth back then handed down from the soldiers. In a bar in California, Thor introduced himself to the black marinated egg that had not yet turned bald, with inherent arrogance in his tone. Thor has a vague feeling that his character seems to be greatly influenced by the original Thor. System. How long have I been in this world? 1500 years. Sure enough, his time travel was not actually possessing others' body. In other words, the more than 20 years of the last life is the real time travel. Huh. Nick Fury looked dazed. His worldview almost collapsed within a day. First aliens, then the gods of ancient legends. However, with the example of Carol Danvers first, this time it is not so difficult to accept. Well, it was an honor to meet you then. Nick Fury shrugged. Later, in order to find clues to the Tianma project, the three went to the Air Force base together. Same as the original plot, Nick Fury has the demeanor of an old fox at a young age, secretly contacted his boss, and then found out that something was wrong with his boss. The difference is that during the retreat, Thor hit the ceiling with a hammer, a strong electric current was injected into the circuit system, and the entire Air Force base was completely dark immediately. Cat. This cat is dangerous, I suggest you better stay away from it. Seeing Nick Fury teasing the cat with an idiotic smile on his face, Thor complained. It stands to reason that Nick Fury should be vigilant. After all, he saw too many supernatural phenomena today, such as Carol who fired a cannon with his fist, Thor who short-circuited the electric current of the entire Air Force base with a hammer, and the one below who is thicker than a bear Skrulls. It's a pity that this metamorphosis beast named Cuckoo looks so deceptive. Nick Fury is determined to be a shit shovel officer. Petting cats is fun for a while, and it's always fun to pet cats. So Thor didn't care anymore, let him go. Having said that, is a corned egg with two eyes still called a corned egg? At this time, Carol Danforth, who was flying the plane, turned his head and asked, "Can you tell me the purpose of your help? It seems that this matter has nothing to do with you. Whether it is the Kree or the Skrull, it has nothing to do with you. Drinking Asgard has nothing to do with him." From the moment he appeared, Thor had been very active, and he had been offering to help even though he had nothing to do with it. If Nick Fury is doing his job, then Thor is a typical idol. Is the heir to the throne of Asgard so idle? The key is that Thor's strength is very strong, so she can't help but be careless. Bithor had already said, "If it's just a dispute within the Earth, it really has nothing to do with me. But as a member of the Nine Realms, the Earth belongs to Asgard at least in name. If people from other planets land here without saying hello, we at least show something." It can be seen that Carol is not trusted on Carrie, and the relationship between Earth and Asgard is not a secret in the universe. Nick Fury, who was teasing the cat, was so sensitive that he heard the meaning behind his words, and asked in confusion, "In name? So the Earth doesn't actually belong to Asgard?" He spoke more seriously. It would not be good news if the Earth was considered an appendage or even a colony by a higher civilization. Thor definitely knew what he meant, and said lightly, "Don't worry, the Earth is independent. Humans have their own Asgardian, and the strongest is no less than my father. However, unless the world is in a major crisis, that organization basically the superiors will not interfere." What he said was the truth. In fact, even if Carol did not have awakening this time, if Ronan dared to break the rules on the Earth, Kamar Taj would definitely make him have no chance to admit his cowardice. The marinated egg immediately looked a lot more relaxed. In the living room of Maria Rambo's house, the little girl Monica watched Carol boil the water in a few seconds with super ability. Her eyes widened in surprise. Children have rich imaginations and are usually more receptive to new things. "Wow. That's cool, is there anything else?" he said and looked at Thor. "There will be a chance to see cooler ones. Now, you should have a lot of things to show your Aunt Carol." The little girl sent Carol into the room, and Thor leaned on the sofa leisurely, looking at Nick Fury who wanted to stare at him. "Why are you looking at me like that? I don't like being stared at by a man." Nick Fury wondered. "Why'd I feel that you seem to know a lot of things? You are not even surprised by Firth." "Oh, it should be Carol Danforth, as if you knew it a long time ago." As expected of the future king of agents, his powers of observation are indeed very keen. From the very beginning, you have identified her as a Kree, believed everything she said, and subconsciously agreed with the concept instilled in her by the Kree. But I did not, at least in my understanding. The Kree and the Skrulls are not considered a peace-loving race. Seeing that Fury still looked suspicious, Thor added, "And, my mother is the greatest witch in Asgard." As Thor was speaking, he suddenly threw a hammer and brushed past Talos' head behind the door. "After listening for so long, why don't you come out and talk?" Talos came out with a look of surprise, empty-handed. The only cup of milk tea in the refrigerator was in Thor's hand. Carol, who heard the movement, ran out quickly, staring at Talos closely. His hands began to glow. "Oh, no, 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 we are not enemies." Talos knew how fierce this woman was, so he hurriedly explained. "There are a lot of misunderstandings between us. I think we need to have a good chat. The last time we talked, I don't think it was a misunderstanding to hang me upside down." Carol was unimpressed. Talos quickly stepped back and said, "I didn't know your past agent last time, and I didn't know how different you were from others." Then, meow. Cuckoo, whose tail was stepped on, jumped up. "Oh, my God. How can you have such a dangerous existence here? Where is it? Let it stay away from me." Talos' green face instantly turned greener. Thor immediately hugged Goo. "It might be swallowed." "Haha, dangerous? You say this cat?" Nick Fury laughed out loud. This guy pretending to be his boss was actually scared like this by a cat. Seeing Cuckoo's tail being pulled in Thor's hand, Talos shuddered and continued. I have a black box from the plane crash that year, you can listen to it. The voice from the stereo came, and the truth of the year was slowly reappearing, and Carol's memory was also recovering. The audio ended, and Carol, who recovered his memory, rushed out of the door. She knew the truth, but her mind couldn't accept the truth of being deceived and used for so many years. You're Carol Danvers, the one who risked his life to do the right thing. You were my best friend, supported me when everyone else wasn't, became a mother, became a flightman. Maria Rambo was reassuring her, trying to calm her down. The real purpose of the Tianma project is not to fight wars, but to end wars. Thor said lightly, although I have been deceived for 6 years, at least there is still room for redemption. You, the Kree, and the supreme wisdom, there is bound to be a break. Carol's expression gradually eased, and she decided to complete what Dr. Lawson hadn't done, and help the Skrulls find a safe place, a new home, a place where the Kree people couldn't find it. At night, everyone is discussing tomorrow's actions. Going to space? Our aircraft doesn't have this ability, Nick Fury said. I'll take care of it. Thor asked for Braised Dan's cell phone and made a call. A few minutes later, a beam of huge amounts of light shone in the courtyard of Maria Rambo's house, and a mighty spaceship was sent by Bifrost. Wow! Monica exclaimed. What a beautiful spaceship. Thor waved his hand generously. After the task is completed, it will be yours. He just contacted Odin. Although Asgard looks like a medieval style, in fact, the level of technology is very advanced, and 5G has been covered as early as thousands of years. Just now I asked for a small spaceship, and at the same time asked Odin to cast a curse on the hammer from the air. He has a plan for tomorrow, but he doesn't want the hammer to be taken away by the Kree. Really? Thank you. Monica immediately had a better impression of this good old man. At dinner just now, this guy ate enough for a dozen people alone, and emptied her refrigerator, and Monica's face turned green at that time. In the early morning, Yanrog looked at the corpse of the Skrull pretending to be Carol with a livid face. He turned on the communicator, and said in a deep voice, the Skrulls have infiltrated the C-35 planet, come here immediately. At the same time, Thor and his team walked into Dr. Lawson's laboratory. Is this the Tesseract? Thor saw the energy core, that is, the Tesseract, inside of which was the famous space gem, and it was because of it that the future Asgard was attacked by Thanos. Thor couldn't help but clench his fists, and today's plan became a bit firmer. The Skrulls hiding in the dark came out one by one, including Talos' wife and daughter, and they embraced tightly. We don't know what to do, and Marwell warns us not to send a message under any circumstances, or the Kree will find us. You're right. Looking at this warm scene, Carol's eyes couldn't help but feel a little sore. Seeing the fear of the female Skrulls towards her, she stepped forward and said, I won't hurt you. I'm really sorry, I didn't know before. Carol, this is war. Talos comforted, my hands are also dirty. But now, you took me and found my family here. He bowed his head in silence to express his gratitude. After a while, he continued, this is just the beginning. Thousands of our people have been separated and scattered throughout the galaxy. At this time, there was a sudden sound of footsteps, and everyone immediately became vigilant. Brothers with the enemy, right? Young Roger walked in with the Star Troopers. What happened to your team uniform? Minerva sneered. As expected, she was brainwashed by the enemy. The Supreme Intelligence will restore her to normal, Colas added. Young Roger stepped forward. I trained you to make you a better self. At the same time, Carol found that his energy suddenly disappeared, and at the same time came a mocking voice. What we can give you, I can take it back too. Before he finished speaking, a flash of lightning suddenly appeared and knocked him into the air instantly. Am I just so non-existent? Come on together, let me see how heavy you mob are. Thor frantically dragged his hatred. At the same time, pieces of fish-scale armor appeared from the void and were inlaid on Thor's arms. A set of extremely thick black plate armor protected his chest, making him look even more burly. Drink. With a loud roar, Mjolnir raised it high, and with the high-speed rotation of the hammer, a black tornado storm formed, and death and lightning were mixed in it. For a time, it was like a god descending into the world. The bearded Branchel brandished this iron fist, and was the first to rush up, but was caught in the storm, and then flew several hundred meters after a loud noise, unable to get up for a long time. The Star Troopers were facing an enemy. Young Raj waved his hand behind him, and a large number of Kree soldiers rushed up. In the messy laboratory, Young Luoj and others looked ashen. I thought that coming to this backward planet this time would go smoothly. Even the soldiers I brought with me were just to prevent Carol from really losing control. Unexpectedly, I met a ruthless character, and the fighting style was like an uncivilized barbarian. The Star Troopers, who were confident when they came, are all in a mess now, and the Kree soldiers are all dead. If Yang Luoj hadn't found the opportunity to attack with all his strength and knock Mjolnir out of the laboratory, it would have been difficult to take him down. Yang Roger ordered with a dark face. Take Foss away, and the supreme wisdom will restore her to normal. Then he looked at Thor, who was under control. Minerva, take this person to another room. A fine fighter, and the supreme intelligence will strike and make him ours. The supreme intelligence is the aggregate of consciousness, and no one can observe its true form. Or, there is no fixed form, it will become the most important person in people's hearts. And at this moment, the person in front of Thor. Shu Jinjiang? No, is that me? Supreme Wisdom looked at his own image and couldn't help but sneered. I didn't expect that he is a guy who feels good about himself and is extremely narcissistic. You are the second such person I have seen. The first one is Yang Luo Grid. Really? Thor wasn't nervous at all, or he was already mentally prepared. I suddenly have a doubt. If the person who came to see you was a dog, what would you become? Rake. Supreme Wisdom's face remained unchanged, and he said in a low voice, you should know that it is not good to provoke me. But it doesn't matter, you will soon become our soldier. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand, and a blue energy enveloped Thor. Suddenly, Thor felt a force pressing towards him. This force was so powerful that he couldn't move, and his brain was dizzy. He knew that the supreme intelligence was trying to control him, so he persisted and kept awake. Give up. Without a weapon, you are just a mortal now, you can't resist me. The voice of supreme wisdom remembered. Thor gritted his teeth and struggled, as if a heavy millstone was pressed against his chest. Gradually he began to have difficulty breathing, almost out of breath. The pressure around my body is getting bigger and bigger, as if it can be overwhelmed in the next moment. But at this time Thor slowly calmed down, all the sounds in his ears seemed to disappear, and the surrounding time seemed to stand still. In reality, Minerva saw Thor's struggle from the beginning and became calm, and suddenly felt an ominous feeling. She shook her head to dispel the uneasiness in her heart, but she didn't notice a trace of electric arc slowly circling around Thor's hand. The supreme wisdom gradually increases ability, and Thor's will is much higher than he imagined, but this meaningless struggle is meaningless. At this moment, a cold, mocking voice came. I am the Prince of Asgard, the god of thunder. With just one thought, the power of Bifrost will descend immediately. No one can leave me behind. As long as I call out in my heart, no matter how far away Mjolnir is, he will return immediately. Before returning to my hands, no one can stop him, let alone the group of trash outside. If I want to get away, it's easy. I've been with you for so long. What kind of illusion makes you think you can win? Thor's body began to tremble, and he clearly felt that a terrifying power in his body was waking up. Success. On the other side, Yang Roger and the others were looking at Carol Danforth with serious faces. She wants to break free. The station's energy began to falter, and the lights began to flicker. At the same time, in the vacuum outside the space station, dense dark clouds suddenly appeared and enveloped it. In the illusion, Carol's ferocious expression became calm. In the past, when I fought, I could only use half of my strength. But have you ever thought about what will happen if I ask you to restrain me? The chip fell to the ground and shattered, and the illusion was shattered. The golden light enveloped her whole body, and she opened her eyes, emitting bright golden light. Captain Marvel, officially born. At the same time, a cluster of huge thunderbolts with a width of nearly 1 kilometer in the thundercloud suddenly condensed and turned into a 1-meter-thick thunderspear, which ruthlessly exploded on Thor's body. The huge amounts of force almost shattered the entire space station. Thor, who was bathed in purple thunder and lightning, stood up slowly, his eyes radiated a dazzling purple light. Thor, incarnate. Back in Asgard, Thor had thought about it. In the future, there will be 3 major opportunities for improvement in strength. One time was the Fat House state during the final battle. At this time, the improvement was mainly reflected in strength. Although he was always at a disadvantage, he could already compete with Thanos for a short time. And the reason for this promotion, Thor speculates, may be that after becoming the king of Asgard, his strength will continue to grow, just like Hela. Under normal procedures, it would take more than 20 years for this power to be unlocked. Thor has long considered that the war will end in Wakanda at most, so he can only obtain this power in advance through system tasks. One time was to build Stormbreaker. Relying on Stormbreaker can restrain the power of gems to kill Thanos. In the original timeline, he relied on the invincible Stormbreaker to cut off Thanos' head. Tomahawks can be forged by themselves at any time, but to forge a tomahawk, one needs to be exposed to the high temperature of hundreds of billions of degrees in a neutron star. It's hard for me to bear now. Finally, there is the awakening of Thunder Force. Although he is known as the God of Thunder, in fact most of his power needs to be released by Mjolnir. Just like facing Yang Luoj and others before, after losing the hammer, he instantly became a high-level soldier, almost powerless to resist. Although the hammer can return instantly with a thought, but if something unexpected happens, what should you do if the hammer fails? After these 2 days of observation, Thor found that his situation was very similar to that of Carol. The power was hidden in the body and was difficult to control. It had to rely on external objects, like Thor's hammer or the chip on Carol's neck. Therefore, he deliberately showed his strength and was captured, trying to rely on the pressure of the supreme wisdom to stimulate the awakening of his own strength, just like Carol. He succeeded. Feel the surging power in the body, as if there is the ability to destroy heaven and earth with every gesture. Minerva's eyes widened in shock, and she immediately yelled, "Quick, shoot and kill him." A purple thunder light suddenly burst out from Thor's hand, spreading along the ground. In just a moment, all the surrounding soldiers were reduced to ashes. Minerva rolled on a donkey in a hurry, dodging a thunderbolt, and raised the sniper rifle again in disbelief. Before he could pull the trigger, he heard a click, and the sniper rifle turned into a fire stick, and then my whole body went numb and I couldn't move anymore. Thor carried Minerva towards the direction of the Skrulls. Many Kree soldiers along the way tried to stop them, but they were smashed into charcoal by the surrounding lightning as soon as they appeared. On the other side, Carol handed the Tesseract to Nick Fury, and turned around to stop the Star Troopers from pursuing, just in time to see Thor who came to meet him. "You did it on purpose." Carol looked at the thunderous Thor and laughed. She also saw Thor's situation. "No, I almost capsized in the gutter." Thor immediately denied, and then joked. "How do you feel, Vajra gourd baby?" "It feels great, Mr. Pikachu." Carol rolled his eyes and looked at young Roger and others who surrounded him. "Tesseract and hostage, Minerva, you can only choose one." "I don't like your humor anymore," young Roger said in a deep voice. "It is her honor to sacrifice for the Kree Empire. Kill them for me." The Star Troopers rushed forward. The Star Troopers were not Carol's opponents, and now with Thor, they were naturally helpless. In the end, young Roger, who found out that the Tesseract had been dropped, left his teammates and drove a fighter plane alone to hunt down the Skrulls. Carol pursued alone, and Thor took Minerva to another spaceship. "He can't fly yet." On the spaceship, Thor teased Minerva. "Do you know that I saved your life?" Minerva was expressionless. She hated, not only Thor, but also Carol. "If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have come to this place where no birds lay eggs, so that I was captured by this stinky guy." Thor paid no attention to her reaction. There are not many good people in the Star Troopers of the Kree, and she is only kept because she looks more oriental. He narrowed his eyes, concentrating. In a vacuum, no sound could be heard, but the strong light still attracted Minerva. She looked back and saw a thick thunderbolt with a width of more than 10 meters hitting the laboratory hard. Huge amounts of the laboratory immediately fall apart. Back on the ground, Thor lowered Minerva into Nick Fury custody. He left a bolt of lightning in Minerva's body. The effect was the same as that of a tranquilizer gun, making it difficult to move within a short period of time. Calculating the time, Ronan the Accuser is coming soon. This battle took place in the air, and Thor, who can only rely on jumping at present, basically can't intervene, and he is not going to intervene. This guy is a big coward, and he can run. More importantly, when he came back just now, Thor tried to summon Mjolnir, and found that although Meow Hammer hadn't lost contact, he didn't return immediately, and there was a kind of meaning to ask Thor to wait. "Please enter the verification code to confirm whether the Meow Hammer is recalled. Please confirm again." Thor was a little puzzled, but he could perceive Mjolnir's position, so he decided to take a look. As for Ronan, the coward, I will leave it to Carol. In a vast expanse of white snow, two groups of people are confronting each other. It should be said that a group of fully armed adult men confronted a little girl who looked 12 or 13 years old. The little girl's body has long been scarred, but her eyes are indifferent, firm, and unyielding, but there is no fear at all. "I am an orphan. For as long as I can remember, I've been wandering alone, not knowing where I came from or who my parents were. In those years, I often searched for all kinds of leftovers from the trash can to feed my hunger during the day, and at night I beat other beggars for a deck chair in the park. Later, a middle-aged man in military uniform took me in, and he took me to a place where I had bread to eat and cotton clothes to wear, and I didn't have to shiver at night in the ice and snow. I met a lot of homeless kids like me. I once thought that this place was the legendary paradise. Unfortunately not. Not long after, a few scary-looking instructors came to the base to teach us fighting skills, how to use various cold weapons and firearms. Those who did not learn well, those who were lucky were locked up in a small dark room and starved, and those who were unlucky good to be whipped. On several occasions, I found out that several of my fellow trainees did not know where they were going. Maybe they were too stupid and kicked out. Fortunately, I learned fast and suffered the fewest beatings. A few years later, we began to be sent out to complete the homework assigned by the instructor. Sometimes it's stealing, sometimes it's protecting people who look rich, and sometimes it's killing people. As a child, it always makes people less vigilant. At that time, I knew that our base had actually been illegal a few years ago, and it was going underground from next year. Some unlucky companions were accidentally killed during the mission. The partners who trained together at the beginning can now be counted on hands. Every time I hear the news of a companion leaving, I always think, when will it be my turn? Maybe, next time. It was dangerous several times, but fortunately, I survived in the end. I thought about resisting, and I also thought about running away. I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life. But I don't have the ability to resist, and I can't escape. In fact, I was spied on every time I left the base. They thought I didn't know, but I had already discovered it. Every sister who tried to escape died a miserable death. I can't forget their hideous expressions now. In a few days, I will be graduating. I heard that there will be a very scary graduation ceremony. Is this my fate? Maybe dying in a mission is the best ending, right? Did he just die like this? No, there is no such thing as an absolute path. Anything can happen if you breathe. As long as I have the chance, I will definitely escape from this hellish place. Just one chance. A loud bang interrupted my memory. A building not far away collapsed and turned into ruins, and the ear-piercing air defense sirens came to mind. A group of heavily armed soldiers is coming. Enemy attack. The strength of this organization is very strong, and it is also very secretive. It stands to reason that such a thing will not happen. Walking towards the scene of the explosion, what caught my eye was a hammer. I stepped forward vigilantly, looking at the pattern of this strange hammer. Then, taking a deep breath, reached out and grabbed the handle of the hammer, lifting it up. The next moment, the atmosphere was trembling, the sky was dark, and thunder and lightning flashed. High in the sky, a carry fighter hovered in the air. Thor stares dumbfounded at the little girl on the ground below. Just a short while ago, this little girl who looked at most a teenager killed more than a dozen people with an almost expressionless face. What shocked him even more was the Mjolnir in the little girl's hand. What the hell? My meow meow hammer doesn't want me anymore. The first time I brought you out, you ran away with others? When the girl appeared in his sight, she was already covered in blood, and she must have been hunted down for a long time. Thor is ready to go. In any case, the person who can get Mjolnir's approval is definitely not ordinary. Moreover, this group of soldiers did not look like a formal organization at first glance. Well, Thor wouldn't admit to another thought of his own. This little girl is so cute. Shoot. Uncontrolled tool, then destroy it. The soldier leader gave an order, and the surrounding soldiers raised their guns and were about to shoot. The little girl clenched the hammer in her hand and was about to release the thunder and lightning. Since I must die, let's see how many people you exchange for my life. Boom. There was a loud noise, and the next moment, the sky was dark, and countless electric snakes descended from the sky. There was no flesh and blood flying, and the violent energy contained in the thunder and lightning brought extremely high temperatures. Many soldiers didn't even have time to scream. Their bodies were directly carbonized and fell apart. In midair, a man in black armor descended from the sky. There was a loud bang in the sky, and Thor made his debut. As soon as the tense strings in her heart were loosened, the little girl's eyes went dark and she passed out. In a daze, the little girl had a dream. In the dream, she picked up a magical hammer. As long as she held the hammer, she seemed to have inexhaustible power, and she could also release lightning as in the myth. Relying on this strength, she broke out of the base, broke through many blockades along the way, and was finally surrounded. Just when he thought he would die here, a stalwart figure descended from the sky and stood in front of him. Open one's eyes. Ha 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 ha, little girl, are you awake? Huge amounts of voice, which startled her. Not bad, you can kill so many people at such a young age. Although it's not as good as me, it's not far behind. By the way, what's your name? Hiccup. After blowing a bottle of wine in one gulp, Thor burped, although the earth is relatively backward. But there are still many good things, such as the wine in this place. Waiting for the little girl to wake up, Thor went to a nearby city to get a whole box of vodka. For 400 caddies, he didn't let go of every opportunity, completely unaware that the girl in front of him had a 180-degree turn in her impression of him. There was a strong smell of alcohol, and the girl who just woke up almost fainted again. The person I like is a hero of the world. I know that one day he will appear in a situation that attracts everyone's attention. He will come to save me wearing a black armor and a red cape, and stepping on a purple thunder. I guessed the beginning, but I can't guess the ending. The little girl moved away with a look of disgust, and said cautiously, "Thank you for saving me. My name is Natalia Elianovna Romanova." What a terrible uncle, he wouldn't eat me, would he? Natalia? Natasha Romanov? New Black Widow? This place is Siberia, located in the territory of Mauzi, so it is really her? Drip. Congratulations to the host for triggering the Black Widow-related task. The home of the hero, no technology armed, no super ability strengthening, but when everyone gave up, only she was sticking to the Avengers Alliance. Black Widow has the most tragic past, and the greatest soul. Please choose one of the tasks to complete. Task 1. Kill Black Widow. Task reward, Soul Gem. In the original plot, Black Widow sacrificed himself in exchange for Soul Gem. Now, you can do the same thing. Task 2. Send Black Widow back to the Red House until the graduation ceremony is completed. Avoid changing the plot. Task reward, Ancient One's attention. The practice of maintaining the plot has attracted the attention of Ancient One, and she will invite you to Kamar Taj 1 Syria. Mission 3. Bring Black Widow back and hand it over to S.H.I.E.L.D. for training. Task reward, the hidden version of the Divine Power Bracelet. A magical item from Otherworld, indestructible. In addition to avoiding swords, it can also allow the wearer to block bullets. After wearing the magic bracelet, it can greatly strengthen the wearer's strength. After wearing it, it will hide, and no one will be there except the host can be removed. Warning. Warning. Mission 1 and 2 options are extremely dangerous. Once selected, there is a 90% probability of being attacked by dimensionality reduction from a higher plane, which will directly lead to the collapse or even end of this universe. Once again, Thor felt the deep malice of Mr. System. Not to mention this so-called dimension reduction blow, the bottom line in Thor's heart would not allow himself to do so. Moreover, even if the soul gem is obtained at this time, there is a high probability that it will be sent by Odin. Without enough strength, holding gems is the original sin. Even Thanos makes quick moves when he is about to launch a plan. As for Kamar Taj, even without the invitation of Ancient One, in his own capacity, he would not be rejected if he had the cheek to come to the door. After figuring this out, Thor suddenly took out his phone and took a few photos with a click. Lolita-style Black Widow will never be seen in the future. Speaking of which, it is now 1995. Seeing Natalia, Thor confirmed that he is indeed in the 199,999 universe, the movie universe he is familiar with. In this universe, Natalia was born in 1984 and is only 12 years old this year. Hey, uncle, is this hammer yours? Natalia asked carefully, looking at the hammer in Thor's hand. Although she didn't seem malicious, she was still habitually vigilant. Have you heard of Norse mythology? This is the legendary Mjolnir. Anyone who has the qualifications will gain the power of Thor if he lifts up Mjolnir. Since you can get Mjolnir's approval, I can give you an opportunity to change your destiny. I can take you out of here, to a place where your organization can't interfere, and let you do what you think is right. Outside the atmosphere, a fierce battle came to an end. Ronan, who has always practiced, pretentious enough to fight, but not cowardly, looked back at the adjutant after seeing Carol Danvers destroy dozens of fighter jets and 2 warships. How could such an embarrassing proposal of retreat, escape, be proposed by the boss? It's a pity that this adjutant is not winking. Ronan had no choice but to order himself. All return to the jumping point, the weapons will be ours sooner or later. He decided to find a reason to withdraw this ignorant guy after returning. On Earth, Yang Luoj stared blankly at King Carol's return. He clenched his weapon tightly, and the two slowly approached. A decisive battle was imminent. Suddenly, Yang Luoj put away his weapon and changed his face instantly. I'm proud of you. After I found you by the lake, you really grew up a lot. But can you control your emotions and really fight me? Or are you just as emotional as you used to be? I've always told you that one day, you're going to defeat me on your own strength alone. And today is that day, and now is that moment. Firth, put away your fancy super abilities and prove to me that you can. Boom. The impatient Carol punched him away. I don't have to prove anything to you. Besides, this is my own strength. Ha ha ha. Thor, who had just arrived, saw such a wonderful scene. I have to say that Yang Rog is very capable of speaking and is very good at guiding other people's emotions, but it is a pity that he met Captain Marvel with 0 EQ. After jumping off the fighter plane, Thor said hello. After this matter is settled, put away the super ability and play a game with me? When Carol was showing off his might in space just now, the system task appeared again. Hey, congratulations to the host for triggering the Captain Marvel-related mission. The confrontation of the strongest. As one of the strongest Avengers, there will be a confrontation between you and Captain Marvel sooner or later. Defeat her and prove that you are the strongest. Note. There is no branching option for this task, it can only be accepted or discarded. Mission objective. Defeat Captain Marvel. Mission reward. A random ability of Captain Marvel. At this stage, without a tomahawk, he is looking for abuse, so Thor is going to muddle through. Carol nodded. In fact, she doesn't know much about the strength after Thor's strengthening. But from the previous performance, it seems that he is much stronger than himself. The two sides suppressed the super ability battle, and maybe they took advantage of it. This is probably the difference between a warrior and a fae, right? She dragged Yanrog and stuffed him into the spaceship. The two big men stared at it, and it was meaningless for Yang Luoj to struggle. He pleaded. No, I can't just go back empty-handed like this. Carol looked indifferent. Bring me a sentence and tell the supreme wisdom I will end all of this. A cannon blasted out, the engine was ignited, and the spaceship wobbled and flew up. Drip. The mission is completed. The confrontation of the strongest. Get the reward. Captain Marvel, a random ability. It is being drawn. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the super ability, high-speed flight, which can fly in any environment without the need for external objects. As Thor pushed Carol to the ground for the third time, the system's notification sound finally came. Although flight is inconspicuous compared to Captain Marvel's other abilities, it is still very affordable for Thor at this stage, which means that he can no longer use Meow Hammer or Stormbreaker to fight in space. Natalia on the side was drowsy with her mobile phone, because Thor requested that they recorded the fighting process of the two. Is it necessary? In her opinion, the fighting skills of this powerful-looking elder sister are quite rough, at least not as good as her own in terms of physical skills. As for that strange uncle, his style of play is very retro, or barbaric. God of Thunder. Why does it look like the Spartans who came across thousands of years ago? I think you really need to hone your fighting skills. Thor shook his head. People like Yang Luoj are not strong enough to crush them with super ability. But there are countless strong people in the universe. Facing some real strong people, physical skills are very important. Attacks that cannot cause damage to the enemy, no matter how powerful they are useless. Not just to Carol, but also to myself. The reason why Thanos could not be defeated in the final battle is actually the biggest reason is the suppression of physical skills. Although the battle axe is indestructible, there is no chance to cut Thanos except for a sneak attack. Carol nodded. In fact, she is also aware of this problem. When destroying Ronan's fighter group just now, he was obviously very fast, but he still had no time to dodge many attacks, and he resisted with the strong defense of the Double Star State. It was such an ugly loss, but she still wanted to propose a fight with a super ability. But when I thought about it again, I felt a little bit unable to afford to lose. In the evening, everyone gathered in the living room of Maria Rambo's house to discuss tomorrow's arrangements. Nick Fury, with only one eye left, showed a wretched smile when he saw Natalia brought by Thor. I met this child when I was looking for a hammer. She is a natural fighter and has the potential to become a top agent. Thor handed Natalia to Nick Fury. He believed in Natalia's potential. Oh? Thor's arrogance is very clear, and it is not easy to be praised by him. He looked at Natalia. What's your name? Natasha Romanoff. Natalia said calmly. Now that a new life has begun, the previous name is no longer used. By the way, Thor suddenly thought of something, and reminded. I don't know how your agents usually perform tasks, but I have to remind you that her ability will be better than most male agents. So, I don't want you to arrange her to use her strengths as a woman to complete tasks in the future. This is necessary, otherwise how different is it from the Red House? Natalia looked at him gratefully. What Thor meant Nick Fury definitely understood. He nodded and said, many people have misunderstood the profession of agent. In fact, for top-level agents, the way you said is actually rare. After all, this is a double-edged sword, and it may even lead to the death of one's own personnel. Being instigated. Just like the famous Carter agent, he has only shown favor to one person. Well, you can see the right eye. After a pause, he added, the way you said, for agents, basically only the lowest level agents will be regarded as weapons. If it is only for training in this area, there are many places in Manhattan at night. With or without shield. Thor understood, and it made sense when he thought about it. If beauty alone can solve the problem, why spend so much time training various fighting skills? Natalia's extraordinary ability made Nick Fury decide to hand her over to Peggy Carter for training. As a legendary figure, Carter is definitely the best agent, and it is estimated that Natalia will be trained as a successor. This pair of wristbands is a gift I gave you as a reward for helping me find the hammer. When you are free, study its ability more, it will help you a lot. Thor put the magic bracelet rewarded by the system on Natalia's wrist, and the bracelet disappeared, but Natalia felt in her heart that she had a connection with it. Talos, Ronan the Accuser has left, and he will not dare to come to Earth in a short time. Do you have any plans? Thor joked. Otherwise, continue to be Nick Fury's boss? Oh, no, please forgive me. Potato shook his head quickly, because Talos pretended to be his boss, and he had a lot of messy things to deal with when he returned. I will help you find a home and fulfill Marvel's last wish. Carol said suddenly. She has always felt guilty about the Skrulls, and now she has a chance to make amends, so she won't miss it. In the middle of the night, Carol explained some things to Nick Fury, and then gave him the communicator. The next morning, Carol said goodbye to Maria Rambo, Monica and Thor.
"Aunt Carol, when I grow up, can I drive a spaceship to find you?" She pointed to a spaceship parked on the lawn, which was given to her by Thor.
"Definitely can." Carol turned her head to look at Thor. She didn't want to make the parting too sad. "Why? Is there nothing you want to tell me? You came up to strike up a conversation by yourself back then." Asgard's concept of time is different from that of the Earth. For humans, decades are a lifetime, but for us, it's just a blink of an eye. But if you want to express something, give me the communicator last night one. Thor looked relaxed. Carol smiled in disbelief. "Haha, I have given you my contact information. As long as it is not too far away, I can still receive calls." After running a few steps, he turned around and said, "We will meet next time. You must have a good fight. Don't think I didn't find out. You deliberately provoked me to use energy." After finishing speaking, he soared into the sky in the dazzling light and disappeared in midair. "See you in 23 years, Thor thought silently. Behind him, Nick Fury came up and patted him on the shoulder. "Don't be sentimental, see you later." Before he could finish speaking, his hand was grabbed suddenly, and he fell over his shoulder and fell far away. "Oh, my God, what are you doing?" Maria Rambo and Monica were startled, and then they saw that Nick Fury, who had fallen on the ground, changed into a young man wearing a green trench coat. At the moment he was looking angry. "Why? Why can you see that?" Thor looked at Loki, who was dying every day, and said lightly, "You have too many flaws, and your tone of voice and actions are wrong. Besides, I know you too well." Loki was dumbfounded. When did his big brother, who was full of muscles, actually use his brain? Thor ignored him, looking at the system panel in his mind. The reason why he saw Loki just now was largely due to the sudden appearance of system tasks. Drip. Congratulations to the host for triggering Loki-related tasks. Eating, sleeping, and beating his younger brother. As the god of pranks, Loki often uses pranks on his elder brother. The best way to deal with this kind of bear child is to use force to tell his brothers and sisters Christine makes sense. Note. There is no branching option for this task, it can only be accepted or discarded. Mission objective. Hit Loki 100 times. Mission reward. Master lie. When speaking, it is easier to convince the other party. Note. Lies that are too outrageous to be effective. Very nice ability. If I had gotten this ability earlier, I wouldn't have failed to strike up a conversation with Carol before, right? As for hitting Loki 100 times. Joke, I won't hit him without a mission? Loki beside him suddenly shuddered, feeling a deep malice somewhere, as if he was being targeted by something terrible. Shaking his head, he drove the ominous premonition out of his mind. He joked. "How about it, brother? Wasn't that woman nice just now? Did you like it?" Thinking of what Carol said before leaving, Thor shook his head with a smile and said, "Forget it, I can't bear it. If the two of us did, I'm afraid we will have to fight every day. No, it's not appropriate to use it. I think it needs to be corrected. It should be your unilateral beating. As a younger brother, if you don't respect your elder brother, you should hit him." Bifrost took Minerva and the bruised Loki, leaving Thor alone. Returning to Asgard this time, he will enter the long-term fat house mode, so he decided to find a way to trigger more tasks and go back to slowly digest. The most considered, definitely is the most famous 6-member group of the first generation. Natalia's situation made him understand that even a superhero who has not grown up can also trigger tasks. At this time, most of the plot has not yet started. Captain America is frozen, Banner and Hawkeye are still unknown, and there is no one to be found. The only one who stood out was Tony Stark. At this point, Tony Stark has not yet become the future Iron Man. He is in the most annoying phase of his life. Arrogant, narcissistic. Except for being rich, there are almost no positive adjectives. Except for Thor, no one would have thought that such a big dog would become a savior with a mortal body comparable to a god in the future. Thor doesn't see Iron Man. Originally through the back door opened by S.H.I.E.L.D., he got an opportunity to make an appointment to meet, for which he paid a piece of information. Steve Rogers is still alive, and Red Skull is still alive. The first half of the sentence made Nick Fury excited, and the second half almost made him lose his composure. Well, the second half of the sentence is completely Thor's bad taste. The meeting that was originally scheduled was half an hour this afternoon. As a result, Stark met a model at noon, and then gave Thor to the Dove. Got Dove. Dove. Big shit. I X you if it weren't for the fact that you are the future savior, I would send you to be a father-in-law in the Far East right now. Thor finally understood why Killian wanted to kill Tony Stark so much. Drip. Congratulations to the host for triggering Iron Man-related tasks. Iron Man forever. After the Killian event in the future, Stark will choose to give up the identity of Iron Man. Later, when the world is in crisis, Stark puts on the armor again, until the ultimate Zon snapped his fingers and died in the end. Mission objective. Stop Iron Man from leaving and keep him in Avengers forever. Mission reward. Extremis improved formula. Maya Hansen passed all the data of Extremis to Tony before she died. Tony Stark made improvements based on Extremis. After the improvement, Extremis became milder, the strengthening effect was weakened, and the high temperature explosion effect disappeared, but the self-healing ability was greater increase in magnitude. Attention! This task is an open task. There are many ways to complete it, please explore the host yourself. The task that popped up suddenly scared Thor. Why can the task be triggered without seeing Tony? After thinking about it for a while, I realized that although I didn't meet Tony, I still had an intersection. Intersection of pigeons and pigeons. The triggering of the task is originally very random, just like Carol's task did not appear until Ronan was defeated, but it was triggered as soon as Natalia met. But the content of this task is a bit confusing. In all fairness, the mission rewards are very generous. Extremis, that is something that can be called the 3 great medicines together with Super Soldier Serum and Wakanda heart-shaped grass. What's more, compared with the latter two, Extremis is the easiest to promote on a large scale. Although the self-improvement has become smaller after the improvement, the self-healing ability has been greatly improved. As the Prince of Asgard, you can form an army of Wolverine that can't be killed. However, the problem lies in the mission objectives. According to the mission prompt, this mission mainly has 2 links. The first one is to dispel Stark's idea of retiring after the Killian incident. This step is very simple. No matter how powerful and dangerous Killian is, it is only for ordinary people. Thor can even make the Mandarin event never happen at all. The key lies in the second ring, preventing Stark from snapping his fingers and sacrificing himself. This difficulty is not ordinary. Although Thor has long made up his mind to end the war in Wakanda, killing Thanos early, the fate naturally changed. But this will delay my mission for too long, more than 20 years. Besides, purple sweet potato essence can be crushed to death, but Extremis has P. Thor's resentment towards big shit has deepened, people hate it, and the task is so painful. Could it be that the dignified master of Marvel, Tony Stark's exclusive mission, just give up? When he was at a loss, Thor suddenly noticed something was wrong. The mission is focused on preventing Stark's death. After all, the Mandarin incident is not of great importance. Iron Man's retirement is not a real departure. Even if he does not intervene, Tony will return in the end. This link seems dispensable. Why does the system add it to the task line? Moreover, the rewards of missions are usually proportional to the difficulty. What is the secret of Extremis that is worthy of the hell level difficulty? Perhaps, this is a hint that to complete the task, you need to start with the Mandarin incident. It is impossible to spend more than 10 years waiting for the plot to start, and to solve the problem definitely has to draw from the bottom of the pot. There are 2 key figures in the emergence of this plot, Alderizi Killian, the man behind the Mandarin, and Maya Hansen, the botanist and Extremis maker. At this time, Killian was still a fan of Tony, and it was not easy to find him. But Maya Hansen is a well-known botanist, and she probably started the research on Extremis at this point in time. So Thor enlists the help of S.H.I.E.L.D. to find Maya Hansen's location. The scheduled meeting was rejected, so it's not too much to help find someone, right? On a beach in Hawaii, Maya Hansen, who was on vacation, looked at the man who suddenly appeared in front of her. Sorry. I don't have an appointment. It was obvious that she took Thor as someone who came to strike up a conversation. Although she didn't guess wrong. She has a concept, if it can be successful, it will definitely promote the development of all mankind. However, the current research is still in its infancy, and there are a lot of problems to be solved. What's more, without enough funding, no one thought her wild idea would work. She came here to relax, and she didn't have the heart to think about men and women at all. Although Thor's appearance is indeed quite aesthetic. I know you don't want an appointment, because your mind is in your laboratory. Am I right, Miss Maya Hansen? Thor smiled. Female scientists are usually very focused on their careers, and otherwise they are a woman. My future girlfriend, Jane Foster, seems to be of this type too. You know me? You know about my experiment? Maya Hansen asked with a look of surprise and some doubts at the same time. Definitely. Although your vision may seem unrealistic to many people, in fact you are heading in the right direction. Thor looked serious. However, your research has great resistance, and no one believes you. Many people are people who see the world from a hole. They have spent their lives trying to make this hole bigger, so that they can learn more. But when the hole could be bigger than they could have imagined, they rejected the possibility. Maya Hansen's eyes began to light up, and she smiled expectantly. I suddenly began to believe that you didn't check the information on purpose and came to pick me up. Thor smirked. No, I'm going to invest in you, and pick you up by the way. Comrade Big Shit, I hold grudges very much. If you dare to dove on me, I will dare to cut off your affair. Ha ha ha. Maya Hansen didn't take it seriously, and said with a smile, "If what you said is true, I don't mind." She didn't quite believe that this young man who looked about her own age had enough capital to support herself. But if what he says is true, this is indeed an opportunity not to be missed. Okay, basically done. Thor looked around, but there was no one else. "I will arrange sufficient funds, the most advanced materials, and the most knowledgeable assistants for you," he said in a low voice, "but at the same time, as I said, this hole is bigger than you imagine. A lot of your common sense, the world view will be subverted. If you have the decision to take this step, then follow me." Looking at Maya Hansen with a puzzled expression, she walked towards a secluded corner. Maya Hansen hesitated and followed. Thor held Maya Hansen's hand, narrowed his eyes, and a faint electric light appeared under his feet. The next moment, it soared into the sky. Flight is the dream of human beings since ancient times, and countless people have taken it as their dream throughout the ages. But if it is being pulled by people and passively ascended to the sky, this is not the case. In the blink of an eye, the whole person came to an altitude of several thousand meters, and the whistling wind sounded in her ears. Maya Hansen's mind went blank, and she hugged Thor tightly like a drowning person. Thor was a little distracted by being rubbed, but unfortunately he didn't have the time to think about it. Just the moment he flew up, the system's reminder arrived. Drip. Mission accomplished. Iron Man forever. Rewarded. Extremis improved formula. Thor. Just now he was still thinking about how to carry out the next task. As a result, the system prompt that popped up suddenly left him in a daze. What the hell? I haven't done anything yet, and the task is completed. The completion of the task means that the death of Iron Man in 2023 no longer exists, but the only change he made was. He looked at Maya Hansen, who was embracing him like a koala. This butterfly effect is too against the sky. Through the communication with Mr. System, Thor understood the cause and effect. Speaking of which, Thor doubted that this system came from the country of Hans, and its style was very rigorous. During the task process, except for the basic task introduction, no hints will be provided, and everything needs to be understood and explored by oneself. But after the task is over, it doesn't mind solving its own doubts, and will tell itself any relevant information it wants to know. According to the original plot direction, Killian will be on stage 17 years later, and Maya Hansen, as the developer of Extremis, is his partner. Unfortunately, Maya Hansen's Blacken wasn't thorough enough. When she noticed that Killian was experimenting with unfinished Extremis on ordinary people, her self-esteem and humanitarianism as a scientist made her unable to agree with Killian's approach, and she finally broke with him and was shot dead by Killian. Blacken is 10 times stronger, and White is weaker by 3 points. The ancients do not deceive me. Since ancient times, the villain has never had a good end, just look at Loki, the god of mischief. In fact, there was still a video that hadn't been aired at this time. After Killian walked out, Maya Hansen, who was dying, insisted on getting up, transferred the Extremis data to Tony's hands, and said, "Destroy it, recreate it." Beginning, ended the sad life in the most beautiful way. Later, Pepper was injected with Extremis. In order to better understand the virus and find a solution, Tony resolutely injected himself with the virus, and finally developed an improved formula. It's just that Tony Stark became a superhero because of the armament of the armor, not the strengthening of the body, so it didn't show it. Until the final battle, relying on the powerful regeneration function of Extremis, Tony resisted the erosion of infinite gems and ended the war with a snap of his fingers. I am Iron Man. Without Extremis, Iron Man will not be able to snap this finger, and may be seriously injured and dying the moment he puts on the gloves, but apart from the irreversible snap, such an injury can be completely recovered through Time Gem. In a sense, death has been avoided. It's just that in this way, the final snap of the fingers has to be done by other people. Who will it be? Carol? History legend? Banner with one arm left? Or is it yourself? Forget it, it's pointless to think so much. Anyway, Thor would never let the flickering event happen. Stark, I mean enough to you, I saved your life unknowingly. The improved formula needs to be used based on the imperfect Extremis, and Extremis would have been successfully developed 4 years later, but now with Asgard's resources and technical assistance, it will definitely be released ahead of schedule. Now that the mission has been completed, there is no need for the Earth to stay any longer. Back to S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury and Natalia said hello, with the light of Bifrost, left the Earth. Here is Asgard. Maya Hansen looked shocked. Asgard is arguably the coolest planet in the MCU. Soaring skyscrapers, hovering unique architectural structures, and all the rest of the technology testify to its superiority and greatness. At the same time, there is a lot of medieval atmosphere, so that the two styles of classical and future appear on this planet at the same time. Welcome to Asgard, Heimdall said after taking a good look at Maya Hansen. Heimdall, A great scientist from Midgard, she was invited by me to come to Asgard. Thor turned back and continued. He is Heimdall, the Asgardian of Bifrost. He is also one of the best fighters in Asgard. Hey, Thor, you're back. Is there anything new about this trip to Earth? A heroic female warrior came up and said hello. Sif. Asgard's first female warrior, the goddess of land and harvest in Norse mythology, Thor's childhood sweetheart, and the future daughter-in-law in the eyes of Odin and Frigg. In my memory, my past self and Sif had a very good relationship, but they were more like sisters and combat partners. Well, my previous self was actually a typical straight man of steel. I treat you like a brother, but you actually want to F*K me? There are a lot of interesting things, but the most interesting thing is that I beat Loki. The 3 Asgard warriors who rushed over burst into laughter. Anyway, for their small group, beating Loki was politically correct, but it was a pity that Thor, the only one who had the ability to beat him before, was too easy to talk to. The blonde Fandale is the most active, brave and optimistic, is his synonym. Now, looking at Thor and Maya Hansen standing behind him, he joked, "Hey, Thor, aren't you afraid that Miss Sif's hair will go wild?" Well, when bravery and optimism are put together, it is often described as a husky. Which pot is not opened and which pot is lifted? The 3 burst into laughter, Sif glared at them, and the 3 fell silent. In terms of fighting, the 3 of them together can't let Sif's opponent. Hey, congratulations on triggering the Sif-related mission. Shura Field, as your childhood sweetheart, Thor's wife in Norse mythology, you can reconsider your relationship with her. Please choose one of the missions to complete, and you will be rewarded for completing the mission. Task 1. Reject Sif. Task reward. A piece of soap. A real man should F*K a man. Women are big pigs. Task 2. Give Sif an explanation. Task reward. 3 random infinite gems experience coupons. The goddess has been waiting for you for more than 1,000 years, don't let her be sad. Let's make a show, boy. It's not me who is making a fuss, but you, the system. Seeing Sif's calm face, but the corners of his eyes were a little sad, Thor stepped forward and stretched out his hand, stroked her somewhat messy hair, and said softly, "Okay, don't frown, it's been so many years, you're thinking, how could I not know?" The cheeks of Sif, who was still like a woman just now, turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. Although in the past Thor carelessly treated her like a man, and sometimes it was common for them to hug like a man after drinking, but this time she felt completely different. The Vandal trio were already blowing the whistle.
Maya Hansen behind him looked at this scene and cursed secretly. Hey, men are indeed big pigs.
In the resplendent hall, a white-haired one-eyed old man sat on the throne, examining his son. Even Thor, who has been awakened, still feels a pressure. The ruler of the 9 realms, the king of Asgard, this is the top powerhouse in this universe. When he was young, he once repelled Thanos. Even now that he is old, he still frightens the world, and no one dares to commit it. You are better than I thought, Thor. Odin said, I thought about it a long time ago. In the past, you relied too much on Mjolnir. If you want to become the real god of thunder, and even the future in the battle of the gods, you must get rid of this dependence. But what surprised me is that you can realize this yourself. You will be an excellent king. There is relief in the tone. On the one hand, it is Thor's change, and on the other hand, it is because Frigg told him recently that Ragnarok's prophecy has become blurred. This means that the unchanging future has a turning point. Loki twitched the corner of his mouth. He felt that Thor's change was not so good. At least the old brother would not beat him casually. Back in Asgard, even though I was only out for a few days, it felt like a long time had passed. I got acquainted with the Kree, got to know the future director of Snake Shield, added the strongest Avenger in the address book, developed Black Widow in advance, and the most important thing is that the finale of Avengers Alliance 4 has been changed. The rest of the time will be much more leisurely. Maya Hansen arranged for an exclusive laboratory, and many excellent scientists helped her. Minerva, who was imprisoned in dungeon, has not shown him a good face so far, and Thor is too lazy to put his hot face on his cold ass. Sif, like a normal person, still often comes to Thor to learn martial arts, chat and drink. But Fandral and the others knew that the relationship between the two was already different. Life calmed down and seemed to be the same as before. The only difference is that whether it is Sif, the 3 warriors, or Odin, Thor seems to have become too edible, and the consumption of ingredients in the palace has doubled. Could it be that after awakening, the energy requirement becomes larger? Odin muttered to himself. Time flies, especially for the long-lived Asgardians, and 5 years pass in the blink of an eye. Drip. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. The elegy of the strongest. Get the reward. The power of Thor in the fat house. Drip. Congratulations to the host for completing the task. Eat, sleep and play Didi. Get the reward. master of lies. A burly and frighteningly large man let out a long breath. After 5 years, Thor finally completed the first mission of the year. Today, he is almost the same as the fat man Thor seen in the movie before crossing, even worse. With clenched fists, an unprecedented explosive force is gathering. No wonder, can withstand Thanos. This strength, I am afraid that it can beat Hulk so that he dare not come out, right? By the way, he completed the task of beating his brother 100 times. In the past few years, Loki has entered the darkest time in his life. On average, he beats every half a month. If he is unlucky, he has to add SIF, mixed doubles. Can this day be passed? Although it is said that Loki dies first every time. However, is Loki, who does not die, still the god of mischief? Not only Frigga, who is overflowing with maternal love, but even Odin, who has never liked Loki that much, can't stand it anymore. This is too miserable, right? But every time Thor is justifiable defense, which is impeccable. Minerva used her mobile phone to take pictures of Loki's death every time as evidence. Well, the video cannot be P. Minerva surrendered to Thor 2 years ago. Maya Hansen developed Extremis in just 3 years. Thor handed over the improved formula to Maya Hansen to develop an improved version of Extremis. Asgard people are born with strong physiques, and the strengthening effect of Extremis is not obvious, but Thor is very satisfied with the function of restoring regeneration. The most influential was Minerva. Minerva is a pure-blood Kree with dark blue skin, belonging to the noble complexion. This kind of Kree has the strongest sense of racial belonging, and it was originally difficult to subdue. The Kree only had blue at first, and other skin colors were mixed with Kree and other races. Originally, mixed bloods were slaves without human rights, but later the Supreme Intelligence discovered that the genetic evolution of pure-blooded Kree people was locked, and granted Kree citizenship to half-blooded people whose paternal line was Kree, to supplement the defects of pure bloods. The strengthening effect of Extremis actually unlocked Minerva's genetic lock. Another change brought about at the same time was that her skin color became a normal human skin color, a skin color she despised before. This change nearly collapsed her worldview, and the pride of the Kree disappeared. The next day, she expressed her submission to Thor, starting as a maid. After Maya Hansen arrived in Asgard, due to the loneliness brought about by a foreign country, it didn't take long for Thor, who was already very fond of him, to complete the second half of Invest in You. Everything will be fine. Except for the unbearable Loki, who planned the invasion of the giants of Jotunheim in advance, and induced Thor to provoke the war against the giants of Jotunheim without authorization. It's a pity that the current Thor is far stronger than himself in the movie. With the power of awakening thunder, he is a mobile battlefield cleaner. If it wasn't for Odin's rescue, King Lof of the giants of Jotunheim might capsize. At this time, Odin is still looking forward to giving Jotunheim to Loki. More importantly, he needs this to hone Thor and let him learn to be a benevolent king. A fierce quarrel is going on in the hall. I told you that a wise monarch will never provoke a war easily. 5 years ago, I naively thought that you were ready. Now it seems that I was wrong. Vanity, greed, cruelty, arrogance, ignorance, not worthy of the trust of other star domains. This may be the most ruthless criticism of Thor in Odin's life, and the fundamental reason is not that Thor got into trouble, but that Odin saw in Thor the Hela of the past, as well as himself in his youth. Odin's insults to Thor are actually reflections on the first half of his life. In the first half of his life, Odin advocated force, and his brutal conquering rule completely plunged the 9 realms into chaos. Hundreds of millions of people in the 9 realms suffered from the wars provoked by Asgard. You also told me that a true king must always be ready to fight. The war has already begun, but you don't want to admit it. They started the war, and I just chose to fight it. Without your intervention, the war is over already. Thor was tit for tat. Odin's approach, in his opinion, is no different from that of the Virgin Mary in Europe in the previous life, because he has committed a lot of sins in the past, and now he has begun to reflect on it. He is extremely tolerant of those suffering lords back then, and made a mess. But it's nothing more than your own overflowing love, and it's too much to ask others to do the same. The angry Odin finally deprived, or sealed Thor's divine power, and sent him to the earth to hone his mind. Thor had expected this to happen. In fact, even if nothing happened, he planned to go out for a while. As early as a few days ago, Odin and Frigga couldn't bear Thor's overeating anymore, ordered Thor to be a vegetarian and banned from drinking. This is what Odin said at the time: "You can't lose weight. Do you really treat yourself like a pig?" Fortunately, Maya Hansen has not disliked herself, otherwise Thor felt that he could become a monk. Odin picked up the hammer and was about to throw it to the earth together, when he suddenly thought of something, added another spell, and then fell into Odin's sleep. Outside the atmosphere, Carol Danvers is watching Earth. For several years now, she has been busy finding a home for the Skrulls. However, There are actually very few habitable planets in the universe, and most of them already have indigenous residents. This time, she took time out of her busy schedule to come back and take a look at the Earth. At this moment, a huge amounts of figure quickly fell towards her. Carol punched out immediately, and his figure disappeared into the sky. Why did it seem like a person just now? A little familiar. 200 caddies of Thor and 400 caddies of Thor are two different concepts. It was supposed to land in Thor, New Mexico, so it deviated from its orbit and started flying north, across the North Pole. When he flew over Norway, a magic circle suddenly appeared out of thin air. Thor fell into it, and then disappeared.
Asgard. Heimdall suddenly found that Thor was missing. He went to report to Odin, but Odin himself entered Odin's sleep, so he had to give up.
In his opinion, if Thor's life was really in danger, Odin would not ignore it, so he didn't worry too much. In New Mexico, a hammer fell from the sky and landed on a crater, attracting a lot of attention. Nick Fury arrived immediately and sealed off the scene. He recognized the hammer. An up-and-coming Natasha Romanoff tried to take the hammer away, but this time, she found she couldn't lift it. Mjolnir didn't reject me, but I felt another force was stopping me, it seemed. Someone blocked me. This is how she explained, confused. S.H.I.E.L.D. began to look for Thor secretly, but Thor didn't seem to come to the Earth, and there was no trace of him. A few years later, the crater where Mjolnir is located became a famous local attraction. In the gray sky, there is no trace of life, and there is grayness and silence everywhere. This is a dead world. Huh? A cold voice seemed to come from Nine Nether. A figure wearing a black and silver trimmed tights walked slowly, looking indifferently at the unconscious Thor on the ground, and couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Although the living standard in Shenyu is really good, there is no need to treat yourself like this. Be virtuous. Is Asgard really corrupt now? In fact, Thor has already woken up, and the first time he woke up, he heard the voice of Mr. System. Drip. Congratulations to the host for triggering Hela's exclusive mission, facing death. As the eldest princess of Asgard, Hela will take back everything she has in the future. Now, let's start the first round ahead of time. Mission goal: face death. Do not use external force to keep alive in the hands of Hela. Mission reward: passive skill, death resistance. In any case, time will go back after death, and the host will go back for a certain period of time if the host retains the memory. It should not exceed 15 minutes. Enemies with high strength may notice it. If Thor is still strong, at least he can still struggle. After all, Hela has not returned to Asgard. But now Thor is just a strong mortal. Although the fat house power rewarded by the system has not disappeared, there is still no chance of winning. Do you want to use your whole cards? 3 infinite gems experience coupons came to Thor's mind. Power gems. Space gems. Soul gem. The power gem experience coupon allows him to activate all the power of the gem once, and the space gem allows him to teleport once randomly, both of which can save him from crisis, but the mission will fail. No, maybe it can be salvaged. Thor brewed some emotions before slowly waking up. Hela's appearance is quite iconic. After all, she has the same face as the Elf Queen. It's a pity that the witch-like black messy hair and smoky makeup make her look very scary. Thor took a look, showing a puzzled expression. His face changed randomly, and his face was excited. Sister? Hela froze for a moment, refusing her understanding of Odin. Odin will inevitably conceal and cover up this history. Now in Asgard, except for Odin and Frigga, almost no one will know his existence, and it is impossible for them to tell others. Thor continued to be excited. Sister, it's great that you are not dead. I always thought you were dead. Stop, stop. Hela obviously wasn't used to this kind of bloody sibling scene, and interrupted immediately. I ask, you answer. If you don't cooperate well, it's useless to call grandma today. Definitely if I'm happy, I will give you a chance to serve me. It is impossible to kneel and lick, and it is impossible to kneel and lick in this life. Thor complained in his heart. First of all, how do you know me? Didn't Odin cover up my presence? Hela said coldly. No, you have never appeared in the history of Asgard. I saw you in an ancient tome. I asked my father, and he taught me a lesson so that I would not mention it again. Later, my mother told me you exist, but she didn't tell me where you are. Hela sneered. Sure enough. Then the next question, why did you come here? Now that Thor's identity can be seen, he can naturally also see the seal on him. Thornton showed an excited and angry look. Because I disobeyed him. Because the enemy has already attacked the palace, and the father still wants to use negotiations to solve the problem. So I launched the war against the giants of Jotunheim without authorization. If the father did not the king's stop, I have solved all of this. It's time for the universe to remember the name Asgard, but the father king still holds that hypocritical benevolence idea. So I was exiled, because fighting to defend the people is no longer acceptable. Allow. The more Thor talked, the more excited he became. Usually it was pretending, but usually it was really his inner thoughts. It is true that war is cruel, but in many cases blindly avoiding war will not bring real peace, it will only make the enemy test the bottom line again and again. As far as he knew, the frost giants would not appreciate Odin's kindness, and in the future Lof would try to assassinate Odin, only to be stopped by Loki at the last minute. It is naturally impossible for Thor to approve Hela's militarism, but he also does not agree with Odin's appeasement policy. Both are too extreme. Only those who can fight can make peace. Hela was stunned for a while, then suddenly laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha, Odin, you really haven't changed at all, you're still so hypocritical. You old guy is getting better and better, even your son is more promising than you. She turned her head to look at Thor, and suddenly felt much more pleasing to the eye, although Thor's ideas were not exactly the same as hers. She said slowly, I am Hela, the first son of Odin, the ruler of the Asgard Legion, the first heir to the throne, and I am the goddess of death. We were once the symbol of absolute power in this universe, and no one dared to challenge us authority, but Odin stops in the 9 realms. Our destiny is to rule over all. The more she talked, the more excited she became. We are invincible, creating the glory of Asgard with one hand, and the world surrenders at our feet in turn. But, just then, because my ambition surpassed Odin's, he banished me and imprisoned me, isolated like the beast. Before that, the glory of the warriors of Asgard was to use their heroes. His body laid the foundation for this throne. But now, he only wants to be a benevolent emperor, and I am buried with his past. Thor listened quietly. He could understand Hela's displeasure and anger. Hela and Odin also killed. Odin just got tired of killing earlier. In the final analysis, Hela's neurosis was entirely caused by Odin. As a result, Odin suddenly came to his senses, and he killed the donkey. Definitely, there is another very important reason why Thor deliberately caters to Hela. If Hela's combat power can be won, at least a certain reconciliation can be reached with her, and the situation will be much better in the face of Thanos' invasion in the future. In the original history, the main reason why Asgard was vulnerable was that after passing Ragnarok, Asgard was at its most vulnerable moment. Hela wiped out almost all of the army. A Thor who has just been awakened, a Loki who can only spawn minions, plus Valkyrie and Heimdall, are almost all the combat power of Asgard at that time. At this moment, Thor suddenly trembled all over, and the surging power burst out instantly, and the bright thunderlight almost illuminated this dark space. Sister, you. Thor didn't expect that Hela would actually break his seal. Hela said domineeringly, this is a reward for you. Hey, congratulations to the host for completing the task. Face death, and get the reward. Death resistance. Under any circumstances, time will go back after death, and the host will go back for a certain period of time if the host retains the memory, no more than 15 minutes. Strength enemies who are too high may notice. Hela is worthy of being a super boss, and the rewards brought by her exclusive tasks are really powerful. In a sense, Thor is now able to negotiate conditions with Dormammu. The notification of the completion of the task means that Hela has given up killing Thor, at least before leaving the seal. Sister, I'm leaving. The seal didn't target me deliberately. I have a way to leave the seal. Thor said goodbye to Hela. He took out the space gem coupon and opened a space door. Odin's seal is special, triggered based on Hela's death force, even if she teleports through the space gate. Leaving, the seal will be instantly generated in the place where she newly appears. So Hela is inseparable, and it's impossible for Thor to let her out and fight Odin ahead of schedule. Hela didn't speak, but she didn't stop Thor either. The moment before stepping into the portal, Thor's voice came. Leave it alone. When I inherit the throne, I will definitely lift your seal as soon as possible, and announce your glory to Asgard. Hela was left in a daze for a moment, showing a cold smile. Hey, inherit the throne. If you have the ability to accept the challenge, I don't mind. Perhaps because Thor isn't as adept at using the space gem as Thanos is, his teleportation destinations are completely random at the moment. The world was spinning for a while, and the next moment Thor appeared in front of him was a group of heavily armed soldiers. This is Akira?